Procedural rhetoric refers to the art of persuasion through rule-based representations and interactions rather than the spoken word, writing, images, or moving pictures. In layman's terms, it refers to how games or other rule-based interactive media use those rules to convey an idea or persuade the audience to a way of thinking. Today, we'll be exploring the concept of procedural rhetoric using Minecraft. More specifically, we'll be talking about how the different sets of rules involved in playing Minecraft helped convey or detract from a specific experience in-game. The three sets of rules we'll be covering in this example would be the rules of our primary assignment as assigned by our teacher, the basic rules of the game Minecraft itself, and the procedural rules, aka the rules that had to be dynamically created to better manage the procedural space that we had to work with. The rules of the assignment were simple. Make a structure, create a farm, and record your progress. The only thing this arbitrary set of rules prevented us from doing was settling for a hunter-gatherer style of gameplay, which is actually actively discouraged by the core gameplay of Minecraft itself, which rewards players for building permanent structures in which they can upgrade their equipment and store even more. For those who may be unfamiliar, Minecraft is fundamentally a game about construction. In survival mode, the player is in charge of collecting and gathering the materials required for said construction themselves, while at the same time gathering food and other resources to keep themselves alive as they go out and search for more objects to build with. Sounds simple enough. However, the set of rules that really got complex were the procedural rules that the players, the aka us, had to come up with ourselves as we dealt with the reality of being in a procedural world and having challenges dynamically created for us. One of the first decisions we made as a group was that we should all build close to each other. Now this was actually a double-edged sword for us. On one hand, being in close proximity to each other meant that we could help each other out, either through sharing resources or giving ideas on what to construct next. This is best exemplified by the evolution of what I was planning to build. After I had been convinced to move closer to the rest of my classmates, I noticed we were in an extreme hills biome. This gave me the idea of actually constructing a building that was built into the side of a mountain, rather than a beach home as I had intended earlier, or a straight-up tower. However, I also ran into the issue of having to compete with the people around me for a limited pool of resources. The more extravagant our structures got, the less plentiful the land around us seemed to be, and the more we had to explore. For players like me who don't like exploring particularly as much as they like building, this soon became an issue. However, modifying my structure to respond to these needs overall improved my vision of what the structure was supposed to be and made gameplay more rewarding and fruitful for me. For example, one of the issues I faced first of all was finding a place to build on. Since the area shared by my classmates was in the extreme hills biome, there wasn't a whole lot of flat space for me to build my initial beach house that I had planned out. However, after looking around, I noticed that some of these hills formed a perfect pyramidical pattern. This moved me away from my initial idea of building a house or a flat tower into building a ziggurat, aka a Mesopotamian pyramid structure instead. However, building on a hill also gave me great visibility of the lands around me and allowed me to plan out in which direction I would like to expand. However, a problem soon arose when I realized that the requirement of farming couldn't easily be done in these stony hills because number one, they were very high up and there wasn't a lot of flat space for me to build out a traditional farm. My solution to that was, instead of building regular farms, I would build terrace farms in which water flowing downhill would irrigate lands further down. This not only made my farms more unique, but overall improved my structure, as the idea of water flowing out of a stone pyramid got me creating several channels for decorative purposes as well as farming purposes. Instead of building on top of the hill as I had intended initially, I found out that since there was more space inside the mountain, I would cut my way down and hollow out several layers to make room for myself. This allowed me to maintain the overall imposing ancient aesthetics of the place while still having enough place to put my less ancient looking beds and furniture inside. As the requirement for me to go out exploring became essential, I realized that I had a problem of getting lost in the wilderness. My solution, therefore, was to create a gigantic marker on top of my structure so that it could guide me into the right way. This humble marker eventually evolved into the tower, which became the defining feature of my ziggurat. Traveling up and down the hill to reach my ziggurat soon became a nuisance. Therefore, I resolved to create a tunnel network inside the hills that would not only connect to my ziggurat but also provide an easy means of accessing it. This expansion also granted me access to the valleys around my ziggurat, which let me raise animals. Overall, I feel as though the structure I ultimately created was defined more by how I use it to solve my current problems instead of what I had envisioned at first. However, I believe this did not detract from its primary quality and is a good example of how procedural rhetoric can be used well.